Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna let people join us here and then we'll get started. All right. Looks like we might be holding pretty steady, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our testing of the October Enrollment Connect. So we are testing that October collection. We went with October, so you might have a little bit that you could kind of look back on from October's reports. I will say, just to start us right off, they will not match one-to-one because currently the data from other districts is not coming in, so you won't necessarily see your subsidy counts. Just be aware of that. So you'll just be looking at attending counts today for the October enrollment in Connect. So just be aware of that as we're looking at the data. Today, we're going to go through a quick overview of what the October collection is, just as a reminder, and then we'll get into the Connect functionality that you'll be playing with as you take a look at the testing data. If you missed our webinars previously about data entry, this webinar is not going to cover any data entry for Connect. It's all going to be that next step after, which will be the collection. So if you missed those webinars, though, they are posted on our YouTube channels. The two for SIF and for upload, those are available on our DOE Data YouTube playlist. That's linked at the top of all of our MEDM support pages, publicly available, no worries there. And then the SFTP webinar, which would be specific to any SAU that has synergy as a local instance, that would be, that's going to be on our Maine State SIS training. So that one you'll have to email MEDM support to get access to. I also sent it out to all of our local instance synergy users. So you should have it somewhere. All right, let's get started here. So as a reminder, October 1 enrollment collects student counts of students aged 4 to 20 years old for EPS funding purposes. This includes counts of economically disadvantaged, special education, multilingual learner, and it looks at attending students and out-of-district placement students typically. Again, for the purposes of this report that we're looking at today, this will only include your attending students. And you'll also probably see any students who have a primary enrollment with you that might be attending a special purpose private school. The October enrollment data is used to collect data for EdFacts and reporting for federal programs. So it's a multifaceted report, and this is just typical how we always have done this. Again, all of the data that you are putting in today, that is not going anywhere. That is all for test. So no worries there. It's not going anywhere, but typically what this report would be looking at is for these purposes. And I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Resources for the report are available on the MEDM support page under student data entry and reporting. On our student data entry and reporting, we have data dictionaries. So if you're doing those uploads, all that is available there. For student enrollment guides, there's guidance for enrollment that you can take a look at for unique situations, home instruction, homelessness, multilingual learners, all of that. And for the purposes of today, the reporting instructions are not currently posted, but if you wanted to take a look and see how the process is going to change, the reporting instructions from last year are available under the student reporting instructions page. So that would be the October 1st student enrollment counts and the special ed EFS 05 part 1. So you can take a look at those so you can kind of do some modification of your policies if you wanted to take a look at how things are going to look different next year. Completely up to you how you want to do that, but also wanted to just make you aware that resources are out there that you can continue to work on. And we will be updating those resources before next fall so that you will have updated guides. So as a reminder, specific to this report, the report usually opens on 10/1. It's open right now. It's going to close. It's not closing for this purpose. This reporting range, though, is really important here. And even though October 1st, 2025 was months ago, this report in Connect will still only be looking at students who were enrolled on 10/1/2025. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind, that you're only looking at those enrollments. So if you had a student who moved in after October 1, they're not going to count on this report. All right, so we're updating, adding Connect. This is just a change to the process for our testing purposes. A visual of how enrollments are working on a visual of how enrollments are working in Connect that will count on this report. So if a student had an exit date prior to 10/1, they're not going to count. If their enrollment overlaps 10/1, they will count, even if they started after the first day of school. As long as it's overlapping 10/1, if they had their first day of school on 10/1, they will count. So only those enrollments on that specific snapshot date. Also enrollments that end on 10/1 will also be counted. So just be looking at that. Again, if students have moved in since October 1st or left before October 1st, they are not going to be counted on this report. If you would like any resources about student enrollments, how fiscal responsibilities are working, why a student might have a specific fiscal responsibility, those are things that you can all find in our enrollment guidance document, and also outlines our resources and responsibility guides here. I had noted this also because this is something that you will see in some of the summary reports, which is our resident town geocodes and residency status. Residency status is really important because that residency status tells us how students are funded. So if a student is a resident of your school district, then you're going to get funding directly to your school district for that student. If a student is an out-of-district student, then you have an attending count, but you don't have funding for that student. The other district would be getting funding for them. And then tuition agreements would be worked out between you and your district in that other district. And then superintendent's agreements, funding would go to you again. And then we have our specifics for our Maine public charter schools. There are codes for them as well. Those are the most common ones. There are a couple other ones that you might see, like state and federal funding. Those will count as attending counts, but they won't count for funding. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at those fiscal responsibilities and understanding what they mean, especially if you're doing a comparison between the October report from 2025 that we certified and finalized back in October. If you're looking in NEO at that report and trying to do some comparison, any student that, if you're looking at subsidy counts, you're not going to get a whole lot of comparison because you're not going to have the out of district students that are going to be on the report. That's a future thing. It's not coming yet. This will only be looking at those attending students. So as long as your students are in your schools every day, you would want to count those attending counts from the NEO report into your attending counts that you're seeing on the Connect report. So that's where you're going to get the best comparison of your data. Again, it's not going to match one-to-one because those out of district students are not going to be on your report currently. So it's only looking at those attending. Home instruction students will come up with a part-time FTE or FTPT status. So if you have entered a student as a part-time enrollment, then you're going to see increments. I think they come up as 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. So you'll see those in your enrollments as well. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. We haven't really dug into that yet. But they will come up as a part-time. And then economic status is also included on this. If you have students who qualify for free and reduced lunch or for alternate economic status, entering that data into the correct field. We had a conversation about that in our office hours on Tuesday. Just remember that if that data is not mapping correctly, we want to look into how that's being mapped with your student information system so that we can make sure that it's going to the right place, that it ends up in the report from your real-time data checks. So if it's not in real-time data checks, it's not going to get pulled into the report in Connect when you do your collection. So just something to keep in mind. All right, let's take a look at some Connect and how Connect is going to work here. As a reminder, if you have Web to School, Power School, Redeker, Infinite Campus, you have the option to utilize the school's interoperability framework, which is SIF, which is a thing you have to configure in your student information system. So configuration will allow you to get that data into Connect, and then you would review any errors in Connect, and go back to your student information system to update them. If you are a school district that uses Synergy locally, not the state's instance of Synergy, only a local instance, you have a contract with them, you work with Tanya Nascimento, and you have a specific instance for your district, then you would be entering the data via SFTP. So that would be something that you would work with Tanya to get configured so that we can get your data in there. We'll work very similarly to SIF, but it is kind of a blend of SIF and upload in a way. And then if you do not have a student information system locally, or if you rely on the state's instance of Synergy, then you are going to be required to do uploads. And so that would be an Excel file or a CSV file specifically, but you would be putting that all into a file so that you can upload it to Connect and get the data into real-time data checks prior to being able to start a collection. So if you have not done any of the data entry, such as configuring SIF, configuring SFTP, or done an upload with your school's data in it, you are not prepared for a collection to be started quite yet. So go back to those webinars for SIF, for upload, and for SFTP, depending on what your system is, and review those, take those next steps that need to be taken to get the data in, and then you can come back and continue on with today's webinar about how to do a collection. Otherwise, you're not going to have any data to take a look at. So the SIF objects that we're focusing on currently are only the personal and the enrollment. So if you are an upload district, you would be doing personal, enrollment, economic status, multilingual learner, special education. Those are the ones that we're focusing on currently in our current testing environment. So make sure that you're getting those data in. If you are a school that is a concurrent enrollment for special purpose private school, regional program, or CTE, then you are only going to need to do you're only going to need to do the enrollment upload. So that would be the only one that you're going to do. All right, let's get into it with Connect. So when you log into Connect, what you will see is some variation of the screen that we have in front of us. And when you are going in to do a collection, so first you would want to make sure that your data are in that real-time data checks, that you have gone through, done some cleaning up of any of the validations that you're seeing. And then once you've cleaned up as much as you can come into your enrollment under collections. So we're going to start with enrollment here. Again, real-time data checks is the first stop for all of the data coming in from your student information system or your upload file. It's going to come into real-time data checks. You can clean up as much as you want there. It's a really great first step to make sure that the data are cleaned up and ready to go before you start a collection, because any validation errors that are on your real-time data checks are likely also going to pull into your collection. So just be aware of that. It can kind of cut down some steps if you clean up as much as you can in real time before starting this collection process. The collections are where you're going to start to take a snapshot. It's that picture of that point in time when you take that picture of that real-time data check. That's going to be everything that's pulled in. So as a reminder, if you are making changes to real-time data, you're going back and making updates, you want to make sure that you're pulling that into the collection. So this is where you get a little bit more control over what's included in that collection when you're making an update to real-time data checks. Sometimes you might not want some of those changes to come through, and the snapshot allows you to prevent any updates that you've made in your student information system or that someone else may have made in your student information system. It provides you an opportunity to make sure that any inaccurate data is not coming through into the snapshot immediately. So there's some safeguards there. But that does also mean that if you're making changes to clean up the data, that there are some steps that you'll have to take to update the picture. So you have some editing that you'll be doing to those snapshots potentially, and we're going to talk about what those steps are as we continue through. So once you get into enrollment in under the collection module, you're going to come in and you're going to see a screen that looks similar to this. It's going to say the October enrollments collection is ready. So if you haven't uploaded your data, make sure you do that. If you have data in real-time data checks, you don't have to do that. If you're using SIF or SFTP, you do not have to do any uploads for this. It should just be ready to roll. So what you're going to do from here is you're going to select the Begin Collection button. So as long as you have cleaned up your data, you're ready for that picture to be taken from real-time data checks, you can click that Begin Collection and it will start to do a process of running validations. You'll get a bar. It moved too quick when I tried to do it. I couldn't get a picture of it, but it's kind of like a steps along the way roadmap of what's happening as it's making that collection. And once you do that, it will bring you to a screen that looks really similar to real-time data checks. The difference here, you'll notice in the top left, is that it says collections up at the top, and you're working in a snapshot. In the top right, you can see re-snapshot data. That's where you're going to update your data if you have like a mass update to the data that you need to do. So you've gone into your student information system, made all kinds of changes, you're confident that it's clean, and you're letting SIF do its thing. That re-snapshot button is going to be where you're going to find that most update. But other than that, it's really similar to real-time data checks. It's just that none of this will get updated without some form of re-snapshot or add to snapshot to get those changes to come through. So we're going to look specifically at one example of how to update a snapshot. So if you have a student that has a resident town geocode, such as Mystery Moose down here at the bottom, what you can do from here is you can select the line where it says Mystery Moose, and it will open up the student's record. This is if you're not sure what the error is, you can open it up and see where you're getting an issue. It might be that you're still working through some validations in real-time data checks. So you might not get a completely clean record yet, but remember, we are still in testing. So if you're seeing it in real time and you've already reported it in real time, know that it's probably coming through, or most definitely coming through in the collection, and that we are working on it so that we can get it updated in real time so that you can then update that snapshot. So for this particular student, we have a resident town geocode that needs to be updated. That resident town geocode can only be updated back in the student information system. And so we're going to go back to the student information system or to the sample file that we, or the upload file that we're working in. And we're going to upload, again, we're going to fix things right in that source file or in our student information system. So we're going to update the code, let SIF do its thing, and then it's updated here. As you can see in live, the change came through. Live is what your real-time data checks is showing. And so when you're looking at real-time data checks, you can make that change immediately. This is where you now have to do some sort of an update to get the data to come back into the collection. So how do we get it back into the collection? Baffled Bullwinkle wants to know. There are a couple different ways to update a collection once you've made a change and you're seeing the change in real-time data checks and want to pull it into the collection. There's an individual error correction, there's bulk error correction, and then there's a re-snapshot option for a full reset, a full new picture of your data. If you want to just completely wipe everything that you have done so far, that in your collection, you've gone into your student information system, you're ready for a complete reset, you've cleaned everything up, and you know you're confident that it's going to come through perfectly clean, you can come up to this re-snapshot data. That's going to be your kind of wipe it all, reset, new picture, complete redo. If you are not willing to do that with all of your data, you're a little bit concerned that there might be some data elements that are incorrect, just be aware that there are some other options for you. If you come down to this list of students, if you can sort this by resident town geocode, you could select a specific student, however you want to organize that. You can select multiple students, and then you could come to the bulk action, and you can update the snapshot. Whoops. Let's go back. So you can select just update the snapshot with this one student. Same goes for if you have a student who is not included in the snapshot, you can add to the snapshot. So if you want to pull, if you had a missing enrollment, you can pull the student into the snapshot. So you have a couple different options there under bulk action. So that's where you can select the specific records that you've gone in to update. You can select those records and update them in bulk. The other option is the individual student. So we went in and we only updated Mystery Moose. And so we want to make sure that we update his data. We're looking at the student screen. We can see that there's a difference between these two. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a picture of this update record, but this would turn blue and you would be able to select it. And once you've selected this, it will update the student's record and it will clear the error for the student. Okay. So a couple different ways that you can update snapshots once you are there. A reminder, the re-snapshot button is a complete reset of all the data. You can use that if you feel confident that your data is all clean otherwise. Or you can use those bulk actions, which I would recommend if you're doing big changes over time. It would be really helpful. It would be really helpful to just go in and do those one-off changes. All right. I'm seeing questions in the chat. I'm just going to keep going though, and we'll get to it when we go, as we go. So once you get to this point where all of your data are cleaned, all of your data comes through and is ready, which we might not get there. We're going to find out because we are in this testing phase. Just bear with us as we continue going through testing. Once you get to this completely clean phase, there will be a run validations button. You'll want to run validations on your data to clean up, to run those last validations before the collection is complete. There's also many resources where you can do some comparison in from the October collection in the fall to the data that you're seeing here. And so the summary reports is a great place to go to look at what data am I seeing here? Because this is only going to look at errors. When we're in the current collection, the errors by field, you're only looking at errors. You're only looking at the checks that are going on the data. So what about those students who don't have any errors on them? Well, if you want to see those students, you can come into summary reports. And in summary reports, there is an October enrollment count report that you can select, and it will bring you to something that looks really similar to what we have in our October collection. You'll notice here it's only counts attending, and you'll have counts economically disadvantaged. Looks like counts attending might still not be working. And then students counted as special education, counts of grade level spans, similar to that report that we see in NEO. There's another set of summary reports, or actually, if you wanted to know who the students are making up these counts, Similar to how we have the summary reports in NEO, there's also the details report that goes into the student level data. Under record detail, you'll be able to go in and you'll see the students that are included in the counts. So when I uploaded these students, there were 5 students total. One of those students exited prior to 10/1. They're not included here. I can tell that there are only 4 here, so we're all set there. But I can also select a student and I can see more information about their enrollment data. So if you open up a specific student from that record detail view, you'll be able to see general enrollment, race data, anything that's come through for that student. And each of these is expandable. So if you click on one, it will open up and you will be able to see the specific data around that enrollment. So the school year, state student ID, student's name, etc. There's another summary report that I want to draw your attention to, the enrollment demographics count and the enrollments by district and by school. So from these 2 reports, they're 2 different levels. So pay attention to which one you click on so that you know what data you're looking at. But you have the district level school summary. So you can select one of them and it will bring you to a demographics count, which has all the student counts broken out by demographics. So I can see how many students of each grade level do I have attending? How many students of each gender do I have? Looks like that one might be broken too. So there's different ways that you can kind of view the data and make sure that you're seeing the students enrolled. I know that was a big question when we first started. Where are my students? How do I know how many I have? These tools will help you out with that. These are only in a collection. You have to have a snapshot going right now in order to see these reports. And again, they are only going to be as of that report date. So just be aware of that. Okay, so there's a couple questions in the chat. We're going to start going through. And if there are any questions after today's webinar, if you're having some things come up that we don't get to, please email medms.support@maine.gov, medms.support@maine.gov, or give us a call 207-624-6896.